All right, real quick review of Killing the Witches, The Horror of Salem, Massachusetts by Bill O'Reilly. This was a really good book. Not read any of Bill O'Reilly's books, but he is, come to find out, the best-selling nonfiction author of all time. So I'll be reading other books of his. He's got a great interview on Tucker Carlson. Whether you like Tucker Carlson or dislike Tucker Carlson, the review was great of the book. I was really interested by the Salem witch trials subject. This is a great, easy read. It is broken up into sections. The beginning is sort of the Mayflower and history of the Americas, coming over and escaping religious persecution, and it gives you a great foundation for how we got here. And then, of course, you have these two societies that kind of break off, and one is very strict and Puritan, and you get these false accusations from primarily these three 12-year-olds or two 12-year-olds and start hanging people, and it's like, how did we get there? And then in section 2, he kind of brings it into present day and cancel culture, and then section 3 is sort of about demonic possession and the exorcist and whether or not demons exist and the evidence surrounding that. There's so much to say about this book. I just came back from Boston where I visited Salem. I went to Salem in October to see all the fall and Halloween stuff, and so I had just read this book. This came out September 25th. I went the following week, so I picked this up on the day it came out, and I learned everything about the Salem witch trials. If you're like me, you probably learned it in school, but this is like very detailed. A lot of great information in this book that we've come to learn, things since the Salem witch trials, and even in the last decade about the Salem witch trials that have given us more information about what happened. We've actually, in 2017, learned the location of where the hangings happened in Salem, and now there's a great memorial that you can view on YouTube. Just go Salem Proctor's Ledge and on YouTube, and you'll be able to find it. We actually went and saw it and took pictures. We saw the graves of John Proctor and the nurse, Nurse Rebecca. She was a 70-year-old that was just sort of a great person in the community that these little girls accused, because the overall gist was we accused people because they wanted land, and they wanted land rights and possessions, and the way that they would get them is by killing the person, and it would be inherited. And depending on who it was or whatever, it might have gone to the government or it might have gone to somebody that they wanted it to go to. And so it was like really connected. Bill O'Reilly did a good job connecting it to today's false accusations of guilty, before you, and then you have to prove your innocence. That's kind of what Salem was. But deeper than that, it writes in the book that it was very, and this is what we learned in Boston, it's very connected to the roots of the founding of America. Like Benjamin Franklin he came after the Salem witch trials, but in his teenage years and early years, he studied Cotton Mather, and Cotton Mather was he was like the lead purveyor or instigator in the Salem witch trials. He was he even started Harvard gave a donation, or his son did, and then they had a falling out, and they ended up donating to another college, and that became Yale. But Cotton Mather was going around preaching that the devil was everywhere, and had these famous papers and books and sermons. And Benjamin Franklin's inspiration for many of his beliefs came from Cotton Mather out of the Salem witch trials. John Adams, he believed that his biggest responsibility, the greatest thing he ever did, was defending the Boston Massacre soldiers that were the British soldiers that shot colonists. He thought that was the most important thing, and he said, because if we don't give a fair trial to everybody in this nation, we'll be no better than the Salem witch trials. And so, like, the foundation of America's legal system was really inspired by the false accusations of the Salem witch trials. So much folklore and so much heritage comes from the Salem witch trials. It started in Edinburgh, Scotland, and they burned the witches. People that were accused were burned. Over here, it was simply hanging. So it kind of went through the misnomers and the lost history. But I went up to Boston and I saw the burial sites for Sam Adams and John Hancock and Cotton Mather, who's in this book. I saw his grave, and saw Harvard, and just all of the history that this book talks about is up in Boston and in Salem. And of course now Salem is Witch City, and it has tourists over the entire year, but really from September, October, and November you get all these tourists that come and see the witch trials. But honestly, it's more about Halloween now than it is the Salem witch trials. I mean, everybody up there was really there to celebrate Halloween. And the witch trials, I felt, and the memorials kind of took a back seat to the city now. But you ought to YouTube that, YouTube the graves and see where the nurse is buried. See John Proctor, or Miss Rebecca Nurse. She wasn't a nurse, but her name was Nurse. And see where the people, where everything happened. It's pretty cool to look up on YouTube all of these different sites. But the overall readability of this book, excellent. Like, easy to read. Love the fact that it corrected some incorrect history, like, coming into Plymouth. They tried to sail to Virginia on the Mayflower, but they came in way north. So they ended up around Plymouth. And the legend goes of Plymouth Rock, if you YouTube it, up there, they've got the rock that they allegedly stepped on to for the first time that memorialized where they landed. Well, the rock's just made up. There was no rock at the time that they stepped on. So, like, reading this book and having it say, oh, we found out that Plymouth Rock was a legend that was inaccurate, it's like, okay, cool, So there's a lot that, Paul Revere, the legend is he's riding through on the horses, and he told somebody to light the lanterns, one if the British were coming by land, and one if the British were coming by sea. He didn't tell anybody. He actually lit the lanterns himself in case he died on the way, alerting people if he got killed or captured on his horse. And so, we learn that lost history, that he actually lit the lanterns himself. Also, that he didn't say the British are coming, the British are coming. That's the famous line. We learn in the book that, he said the red, I think he called them the red, it wasn't the red coats, but it was the red something. But anyway, really cool, factual updates. And then, this has the modern touch of, really, we're experiencing in culture, or did for a period of time, the cancel culture of accusing, maybe falsely, somebody of a crime, and they lose their job, they get fired, they have repercussions or consequences because of a false accusation before they've been given a fair trial. And so it's sort of cyclical, and it's history repeating itself in some ways. So that was an interesting aspect of the book. But overall, I loved the big aspect, the overarching things. It's easy to read. It has only the information you're interested in. It doesn't get bogged down in details. And you get the foundation of America, and then you get the Salem witch trials, and then you get, modern Salem a little bit, and you get the overarching, how it connects to today's society, and then finally whether demons are real or not. Which great little ending area of Bill O'Reilly investigating the making of The Exorcist, and going back through the evidence and the tapes of the exorcism that took place, and hearing the boy speak Aramaic at 6 years old as they're performing the exorcism. Like, he went back and really studied, and there's like 17 or 11 witnesses that gave testimony to what they saw, all independent, they didn't know each other, but they all say the same things. And so Bill was sort of suggesting that his belief was that if you, like his aunt in The Exorcist had been playing with a Ouija board, if you conjure spirits, if you're actively inviting, demonic spirits, then it can happen that you become possessed. He sort of lightly suggested that, and that there is an evil active in the world. So, the last little, less than the third of the remainder of the book was about that. So I really liked it. And it's the bestseller right now, and it was brand new, and I know a ton of people that are reading this book. So And it's a great little spooky Halloween, time to read, about the Salem witch trials. And couldn't have been a better book for me traveling to Boston and Salem. So there's a lot more I'd like to say, but that's the overall gist. Easy to read, fun. Bill O'Reilly, Killing the Witches, The Horror of Salem, Massachusetts. Definitely recommend it.